Okay, so Orion became a ham in January 2015 after longing for a ham ticket since he was very young. Now that his kids are out and their activities aren't taking much of his time, he's become an avid contester. So he's since around late 2016, he's made thousands upon thousands of contacts running digital modes. Think RIDI, PSK, MSK, JT965, and of course FT8. And lately, he just participated in the California QSO party along with our club, and he's got plenty of experience and plenty of stories to tell. So with that, please welcome Orion Alpha India 6 Juliet Bravo to the podium.
Thank you, Jim. You made me sound a lot better than I really am. So, alrighty, tonight we're going to talk a little bit about Radiosport. Join the thrill. How many of you folks out here are Radiosport guys, folks that done contests? Oh, cool. So, alrighty. This conversation is going to be more towards those of you who haven't been involved with Radiosport. And my goal here is to get more people to spend time with me because, I can only take so much of Brian. All right, tonight I'm going to answer some questions for you. What is Radiosport? Who can participate? How do I get involved? And when are the contests? Alrighty, Radiosport, what is it? We're going to define what it is for you. We're going to tell you what types of Radiosport there are and why is it important. Radiosport is another word for contesting. The official way that we talk about it in amateur radio is Radiosport, but we call it contesting, and contesters usually get maligned on the radio. Those darn contesters, they crowd up the frequencies. Contesting is great because you can do it between hams. So Brian and I have a friendly competition. And by the way, Brian, you don't know this yet. I beat you by 100 points, 100 QSOs this last weekend. And then you could compete against other clubs. You can compete in HF, CW, digital, any way you want to do it. It requires skill, and you may have heard or saw Jim's talk about how to optimize your radio last week. That is a skill that you can refine. Hearing call signs, being able to pick them out of the mud is another skill that you get develop, and you can use that skill in other areas such as emergency communications, and there is a strategy to it. When do you switch bands? What do you focus on at the certain part of the contest? When do you want to participate? So usually you want to be the first in, and you want to be there at the end because that's when the most activity is. And your strategy might be, hey, let's take the night off. There are not going to be a whole lot of cues. Maybe it's better that we're fresher. So strategies involved. Technological knowledge. Yeah, there is a lot in setting up your radio station. You can optimize it, and there's millions and millions of different ways to optimize your station. And, of course, that dreaded word, propagation. Learning how it works, when it works, and those are the skills that you can develop with Radiosport. There are all kinds of different contests. HF contests. There are CW. There are digital only. There are single sideband phone only contests out there. There's VHF, UHF contests. There's even contests if you want to do something in the gigahertz range. So there's something for everybody in the contest world. There are even contests. Most contests are a day long. But if you only want to do it for half an hour, there are sprints out there that you could do a contest for half an hour. As a matter of fact, every Thursday evening, there's a CW sprint and a RIDI sprint. So sprint's another possibility. Then we have our specialty contests and our events. So, for example, POTA, SOTA, IOTA, JOTA. You can do field day, winter field day. Those are quasi contests. They're usually called events. But those are out there for you as well. So lots of different things you can do in Radiosport. So why is it important? It builds operating skills. You're going to be a better operator from it. There is a skill to understanding and listening for call signs. And Radiosport requires you to be very accurate. And every time I start a contest, it always takes me half an hour to readjust and figure out where I'm going to go with it. So that keeps your skills sharp there. enhances your technical acumen in setting up your radio. I don't know how many times we are chasing problems with audio or RF getting into our system. So as we do it more and more, we're quicker about it. We had an issue with a battery on the last CQP. How long did it take us, Brian, to cut a wire, put an Anderson power pole on it, and get back up and running? Yeah, half hour at the most. So yes, you learn how to put in Anderson power poles in a hurry. Enhances your understanding of propagation. We talked about that. The big one, it fosters international camaraderie. How many have been on the radio recently? The bands have been hot, right? On Sunday, I kid you not, the European countries were louder than the American countries. And we had a great opportunity to talk to Slovenia, Slovakia, Germany, Russia, not Russia, France, Italy. What else did we hit, Brian? Yes, you name it, we were hitting it. So it was a very international contest this last weekend. And, bragging rights, of course. You can see right there, back then, I am the record holder for the California QSO single operator assisted low power. We'll get into a little bit more details about that. But the real thing is personal bests. When I first started contesting, I was lucky to get 25 contacts. We were not going to be happy unless we had 900 this last weekend. And if it wasn't for a mistake, which I will point out to you, we would have had 1,000. Eligibility, operating classes and overlays, and types of stations that you can operate with for contesting. Eligibility, anybody with a ham license can participate. You don't have to be a veteran. You don't have to be super experienced. The best advice I can have for you is just start doing it. Operating classes. One of the ways to make it more fair or even for everybody is they have different operating classes. Some of them are single operator, and that is just one operator, one radio. They have, in those kind of classes, they have single operator assisted, non-assisted. So there are spotting networks out there. Everybody know about spotting networks? Some people do. Yeah, you can spot somebody on the internet, and then your logging software will say, hey, look, Orion AI6US is at 14.230, which you don't want to transmit there. But anyway, 14.230, you can push a button and your radio tunes right away to it. That's called assisted. So we have categories for that. Obviously, that makes it a little easier than having to hunt and peck for it. Then they have multiple operator, multiple radio classifications, and then they have what they call overlays. You could be a rookie. So if you're a new ham, within 3 years, you could go into the rookie or the new ham overlay. You could be a youth, or you could be, like me, over, well, that's supposed to say over 50. Yeah, it does say over 50. So we have operating categories, and we have overlays. Now, you don't have to have that ham station to be successful. A modest station is fine. You could start with your home station and start building from there. As you build your technical expertise, that is how you can start developing. You don't think that guy started right away and said, this is what I'm going to do. He built that station. As a matter of fact, that is probably a typical big gun contest station. And a lot of times those guys actually have guest operators. And if you're good enough, you may get invited to one of those. Portable expedition. That's what Brian and I love to do. We love to go out in the woods, throw some antennas up in the trees, and camp, and we run portable expedition. And by the way, in many contests, that is a separate operating classification. Or you could do a remote. That is very, very popular. You're going to see a picture of Peter, WB6POT, I think is what it is. He runs contests from the Bay Area, and his radio and antennas are in Colfax. So that is a very popular mode to operate. So you can operate any way you want. You just can't use repeaters, and no, you can't use the All-Star Link to contest. So how do you get involved? Well, we're going to talk a little bit about the rules. We're going to talk about setting up your station. We're going to talk a little bit about logging software and how you might want to get some experience and practice. Learning the rules. Every single contest has rules. And what are some of the most important things you want to keep in mind is that they're always published on the website. You definitely want to watch for the time. Yes, the time. So Brian's laughing. Somehow, I don't know how I figured out, but 1600 UTC is not 11 o'clock a.m. So yes, we started almost an hour and a half late this Saturday because I forgot to read the rules and make sure I calculated it correctly. Otherwise, we would have had 1,000 QSLs. We had a great breakfast. Yes, exactly. So your rules will always talk about the time. When is it active? They will give you a set of objectives. What is it that they are trying to get you to do? And what is your objective of that contest? Some objectives may be simply making the most contacts on a circular frequency. Maybe it's the most contacts over different frequencies. For example, the winter field day, they want you to make as many contacts by band and by mode. And you can also, in band and mode is CW, digital, band is 2040. And the more bands you work, the more multipliers you get. So that brings us to the exchange. Every contest has an exchange. You have to exchange information with the DX station, and they have to exchange information with you, and they have a specific format. California QSO Party is your call sign, a sequential number, and your county if you're in California, or your state if you're outside of California. So every contest has one. Some are very simple. Sometimes, like the Oceana contest, which was going last Saturday, they had just simply a signal report. And so in contesting, everybody gives you a 5-9. Whether they can barely hear you or not, it's still a 5-9. And then they give you a number. So that worked out really well for us on the CQP. So exchange is very important, and you want to learn that. QSO points. Every contact has a point. If you are CW, like in the California QSO, you get 3 points for every CW contact, and you get only 2 points for every phone. And the rationale is it's harder to do a CW. So then the last item is multipliers. In the California QSO Party, we, Californians, are trying to get every state, and we're trying to talk to the Canadian provinces. That gives us a total of 63 multipliers possible, and we can only use 58. If you're out of the state, you're trying to contact every county in the state of California. So that's 58 counties. So the maximum is 58 multipliers. And typically the way the scoring works is you calculate your QSO points. So if you have 100 CW and 100 phone, you have 3 times 100 plus 2 times 100, that's 500. And then if you have all 58 multipliers, you take that number, multiply it by 58, and that is your score for the California QSO Party. The other thing is they will tell you which bands you can operate. So in the California QSO, it's this 160, 80, 40, 20, 15, and 10. If you go to the Winter Field Day, it's basically any ham band that you can get on, except the WARC, which is 60, 30, 17, and 12 meters. Usually those are off limits for every contest. So read the rules, learn them, and study them. And when I say study them, I don't know how many years we did the Winter Field Day before we realized it's about not the contacts you make, it's about how many contacts you make on different bands, because every band was a multiplier. So read the instructions, read the rules. Set up your station. It doesn't have to be fancy. Like I said, this one, you don't need this one here. What is important is comfort and ergonomics. Make sure that you can sit comfortably, because most contests are 24 hours. Those are the typical ones. California QSO was 30 hours, so you're going to be sitting at your table or desk or station for many, many hours. Make sure you're comfortable. Plenty of snacks, plenty of water, and figure in time to get up and walk around. You do have to take breaks, otherwise your mind goes. So make sure it's set up comfortably. Let's move along to logging software. Save yourself a whole lot of problems, right, Brian? You want to go with electronic computer software. Brian, our very first QSO together, he tried to do it on paper. Did not go well. So paper is not the way to go. Definitely use a logging software. There are free versions out there. There are paid versions out there. The one you're looking at right there is the N3FJP. It is a paid software. You can buy his whole suite, last time I checked, for $49, and he gives you unlimited updates, and he'll give you a whole suite for $49. What is unique about N3FJP is its simplicity and cleanliness. It's a very quick and easy way to get lined up and started on your software. A free software, which, by the way, most contesters use, is the N1MM Plus software. Very full-featured, very rich, but has a pretty steep learning curve, but it's free, and it can do anything. There are other software packages out there that they're Mac-rated, Mac-only type software, so go ahead and research. But whichever one you want, just make your life a whole lot easier and use the logging software. Yes, thank you for that. That is correct. Yeah, you do want something that is set up to be a contesting log software. Oh, the question was, thank you, Brian. The question was, make sure you use logging software. Make sure you use for contesting. Alrighty, now we get to the part about practice. My recommendation is just do it. Get out there and start making contacts. You can get online and listen to other stations and listen to the bigger stations, the one that coming through really loud. Those are the big guns. Those are the professionals. Well, not professionals, but they're the guys that do it a lot. And some things you'll notice is they do not have a lot of extra fluff in their words. They are simply, for example, at a typical exchange in the California QSO contest from one of those guys will be AI6US 10 Placer. And if somebody wants to know what Placer, the acronym for that is, it's Papa Lima Alpha Charlie. They will use very few words. None of this, please copy this, oh, you're good. You know, that the real contesters will do that. Little informal, little sterile, not very friendly, but listen to what they do and listen to how they handle. What you'll find is there's a rhythm. There's a rhythm in it. And what I have found is if I am consistent in my rhythm, people who respond to my CQ, they know when I'm going to say something, and then they fall in line, and it's just everybody. It's just a big machine that goes along. Field day is an excellent opportunity to get out there and start contesting. My first experience with contesting was at field day. An SK, Mike Perry, N6GML, I was a band captain for 20 meters, and after I took a break, I walk up, and he's running the station, and he's running the frequency. He was so cool, calm, and collected, and just the way he ran it, it was just like, oh my God. And he was working through pileups after pileup after pileup, and that's what got me thrilled in doing contesting. So field day is a great opportunity. If you come to our field day, somebody is bound to help you get going and start, so you can understand how the ropes are done for contesting. Join us on any outing. For example, for California QSO Party, we had Chris, N6CTC, show up, and he operated the radio for a little while. We're open. I'm open to having you folks drop by if you want. If you're interested in contesting and learning a little bit about it, I'm happy to show you the ropes. Another good resource is the National Contest Journal put out by ARRL. It has lots of neat articles. They have a section in there for what they call little pistols. So if you run high power, you're a big gun. If you run 100 watts, you're a little pistol. And they have a whole section. They have just one article every single time they produce a magazine that will talk about that. There are tons and tons of resources on the internet as well. When our contest is happening, so we're going to talk about the contest calendar, major contests, popular contests, and some niche events. The contest calendar you want to definitely have in your browser on the favorites. My number one in my ham radio tab is contestcalendar.com. It's run by a guy, WB7BM, and you can see there's a quick little pic. It looked better on my computer screen, but what they usually do is they have a group there that says 8 days, then 5 weeks, and then they have all the contests for the next 12 months. So inside each one of those, you click one of those, they'll give you a list of all the contests that are coming in the next week. You click on that, they'll give you the rules, a link to the rules. They'll give you a link to where you submit your log. That is an absolutely great resource. Contests are happening pretty much every day throughout the world. And so you can probably find something, whether you can hear them or not, will be a different story, but there is something almost happening every single weekend. In our area, you're going to probably hear stuff on the weekends more so than during the week. This calendar also gives you the sprints and the weekly contests, like CW Ops has contest, and the North America NCCC, Northern California Contest Club, has weekly sprints and stuff. Those are all listed in the contest calendar. ARL has a list of all of their contests, and the ARL does produce several big contests throughout the year. So some of the major contests, one of them coming up actually is the CQ Worldwide DX contest. This weekend, I believe, is the CW, and the last weekend of October is the single sideband. That will be a big one. The IARU World Championship, HF Championship, that's a very big one as well as the ARL Sweepstakes. And the Sweepstakes has 2 contests, one for CW only and one for phone. So if you're a CW guy, you can work that one, or if you're a phone guy, you can work the other one. So those are the big major ones of the year. One of my favorites are the state QSO parties. Most every state, I should say, has a QSO party. California just had theirs. We will talk about the ones that are coming up in the next week. Those are less formal, but they are still pretty serious contests. Then we have ARL Field Day and Winter Field Day. Those are very popular as well. And then we have some niche events. While they are not truly contests, they do fall into that category. For example, Summits on the Air, Parks on the Air. It's amazing what we can come up with ODAs. We got Islands on the Air, Jamboree on the Air, Boats on the Air. You name it, somebody's going to put an ODA at the end of something and come up with it. But, yeah. What's that? Okay, the Walmart parking lot ODA on the air. Is that a real thing? Oh, it is a real thing. I thought you were joking. Walmart on the air. Walmart parking lot on the air. We're digressing here, but anyway, those are a lot of fun. If you're not familiar with Summits on the Air, that's where you can either hike to the top of a summit and transmit from there, or chase somebody who is on a summit. Parks in the Air, I think, is actually very, very popular recently. As a matter of fact, when we weren't getting very many contacts in the contest, we were calling Parks on the Air and just, hey, can we list you guys? And yeah, sure, no problem. And we were actually in a park, so they liked us because we were a park to park. Islands on the Air, I haven't heard much of lately, but if you are one of those who have lots of money, you want to go to a remote island out in the ocean, you're an IOTA. Jamboree on the Air is coming up in a couple weeks. No, next week, as a matter of fact. Is it next week? Yeah, the 19th. That's the Boy Scout one. Scouts from all over the world. This is actually the largest ham radio event in the world. Over 2 million scouts get involved with this every year. So that's an exciting one. And, of course, Boats on the Air. Are there any questions? Did I skim over something? Earl.
Does the Ham Radio Deluxe, does that handle any kind of volume or anything like that? Or is that just radio control?
I'm not 100% familiar with Ham Radio Deluxe, but Ham Radio Deluxe is a logging software. It's also a... Okay, so Brian says it's not geared for contesting. It's more of a general logging software. It's a great piece of software and a great interface. Any other questions?
Why would somebody want to use contesting software? Because I ran into somebody who wanted to use like Hamlog.
Okay, why would somebody want to use contesting software? So specifically with N3FJP, he has a separate software package for every contest. Every contest has different rules for how the scoring is done. And so if you're using a log contesting software that is a logger that is contest geared, it's going to have the ability for you to either figure out and calculate the scoring, or it's going to be built into the software. That's what makes N3FJP really good. And serial numbers, yes. So some contests you have to give them an incremental number, and that the software will do that. Ryan,
Couple times a week, I'll tune to the bottom of the band because I'm kind of a CW dude. So, you see at 6 p.m. or whatever, bam, it lights up, right? But you're like, wait a second, these guys are flying at 35 words a minute and they're playing FL Digi, and is that really CW in the heart of hearts?
so you probably
I'm just saying because you can get the exchange and you get up to about 20 or 25 or whatever to just do an exchange on a paddle, but is that really points?
well, you probably hit a sprint. That's probably what you ran into. Yeah, it just depends. I mean, I'm not a CW op, so I'm not sure I could go that fast.
Yeah, no, it's like these guys are using the computer to use CW, or am I opening a can of worms? Because you know what I'm saying,
to
right?
me, the thrill, the challenge to CW is decoding it. So there are guys out there that know.
So if your computer's doing it, then I guess there's no challenge.
Well, yeah, I've tried it before. It is a challenge still. So yeah, the challenge to me is if you can decode it, and you're going to be better that way than a computer software. At least in my experience, the computer softwares work, but they're not foolproof. There are guys out there that don't know a lick of CW, and they're contesters. So yeah, those guys are out there. Any other questions?
That's where the personal part of this comes in.
Yeah.
Your personal goal may be to know how to run your computer, but it's not mine.
Exactly. That's where you get personal bests in the challenge of it. And you have to find your own little niche, what makes you excited. I liken contesting to a lot like fishing. You run a frequency. Running means you park on a frequency and you call CQ. I mean, you're throwing your lure out there. You're trying to make yourself excited, inviting. There's tricks to try and get people to respond to you. You're throwing your lure out there. You get one bite. Get it off the hook as fast as you can and throw it back out there. There's a skill in dealing with pileups and getting through people. So that's the thrill for me. I like that constant action. No other questions? All right. You guys have a good evening.